Rav Yosef Albo, the great Jewish mystic, in his work Sefer HaKurim, boldly claims that it was God's acknowledgement of sheer human weakness that led him to permit humans to eat meat. Albo refers to the Cain and Abel story and argues that when Cain saw Abel kill an animal for a sacrifice and received a reward, Cain assumed that killing was permissible. Cain, Albo states, conveniently interpreted that the whole affair. Albo warns us not to do the same. According to Rabbi James M. LeBeau, co-chairman of the United Synagogue of America's Central Youth Commission, both Maimonides and Nachmanides praised vegetarianism, yet they concluded that human beings could eat meat as long as they introduced humane slaughterhouse or slaughtering procedures. Author Richard Schwartz called for Jews to see beyond a mere humane form of slaughter. Certainly, Shechita, Jewish technique of animal slaughter, provides for the most humane slaughter. But can conscientious Jews consider only the final seconds of an animal's life and ignore months and perhaps years of terribly cruel conditions? Can a religion which mandates that the ox and the ass should not be yoked together, Deuteronomy 22:10, and the ox should not be muzzled while threshing in the fields, Deuteronomy 25:4, and that animals are to be free to gaze in open fields and enjoy the beauties of creation on the Sabbath, Rashi commentary on Exodus 23:12, ignore widespread violations of the Sarbaalecheum, the command to avoid inflicting pain on living creatures? Schwartz's point is well taken, especially in light of today's factory farming techniques, which tortured the animals long before their death. But even with the ostensibly humane techniques of kosher slaughter, animals are still forced to endure suffering. The English Royal Secretary for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the RSPCA, has this to say: the Jewish and Muslim communities are exempt from the law that requires all animals to be stunned before they are slaughtered. Since neither Jews nor Muslims eat pork, religious slaughter is confined to cattle, sheep, goats, and poultry. In the case of cattle, the animal is placed in a restraining device called a Weinberg pen. This is a metal crate in which the cow or steer is held, and which is slowly revolved until the animal is upside down. The cow's or steer's neck is then extended and the throat cut. Sheep and goats are picked up and placed on their backs in a metal cradle before their throats are cut. Poultry are held head downwards, usually restrained only by hand, before cutting the throat. With just as much compassion as accuracy, the RSPCA concludes: there is very often a time lag of anything from 17 seconds to 6 minutes from the moment the animal's throat is cut until it actually loses consciousness. Obviously, this is a very long time indeed to an animal in pain and terror. The reason for this lengthy duration between the throat being cut and consciousness being lost may be due to either to the continuing blood supply to the brain through the unsevered vertebral artery, and or failure to cut both carotid arteries which supply blood to the head. Thus, although the throat may be cut, the animal is by no means free from pain and can in some cases have considerable awareness of what is happening to it. There is no such thing as humane slaughter, and to eat animals one has to slaughter them. However, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the mystic who founded the Lubavitch sect, had his own view of meat eating, unfortunately trying to elevate it to a divine principle. He taught that all the world exists for the greater glory of God. If a God-fearing individual, the rabbi taught, eats meat or drinks wine in order to have strength to serve God, then the flesh that he eats goes up to the Almighty as a sacrifice. In other words, if a cow, for example, lives and dies a normal life, then it was just a cow. But if it is slaughtered and then eaten by a religious person, then the cow becomes something higher than itself. In giving its life to become food for such a person, the cow becomes elevated to a level of divine service. From this perspective, killing and eating animals is not their detriment, but rather it raises them to a sort of advanced life form, a sacrificial being. While there is certainly a logic to this, it is up to each individual Jew to decide whether God wants an animal sacrifice or one that does not involve killing. Perhaps the Bible will help determine one's decision. I will have mercy and not sacrifice. Hosea 6:6. Or further, when you make many prayers, I will hear not. Your hands are full of blood. Isaiah 1:15.